Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve, Ramona.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am thrilled to have you join us today. We've dedicated this podcast to explore an idea in your work and your life to have a purpose. Purpose? We hear purpose, and why? Well, our today purpose is having that servant's heart and what impact and difference you can make every day. Yeah, I get to do it every day. I'm doing it with my guests today. I'm so excited because I'm giving you a gift. I'm serving you. It's the best feeling in the world. The other thing we're doing is bringing guests that are going to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you using the servant's heart of moving forward the world, whether it's their little world or the whole world. And my guest today, everybody, is going to blow you away. I'm on pins and needles right now because we've talked for about 10 minutes, and her story and what she's doing is incredible. Audience, you have homework. Here's your call to action. I want you to think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today and what impact you create today. I'm going to say this, it may be controversial, but the world is a mess because we wait. I'll serve somebody tomorrow. I'm too busy. I'll serve somebody next week. And it goes on for months and we don't serve. We don't take that action. Inaction's worse than taking the wrong action because you can always pivot from the wrong action. So take action, serve somebody today. I'm so fired up for my sponsor today, Pantheon Alliance. Join a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business leaders to create a world-changing thought leader platform to grow your business. I'll get you all the information on that. Impact and difference, I talk about in my monologue before the show. Would you like to make a difference in Africa, Israel, Russia, Ukraine, United States, worldwide? That's what my guest is doing today in such at a wide berth that you guys are going to be blown away, and I hope you support her because I'm going to support her. Let's welcome to the show, Nancy. Nancy, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You know, I got to say, and I didn't tell you before the show, so I'm going to bring this up, surprise you. Your last name, how do you say that?
It's Economou. So
And
it's Greek.
Go ahead.
So my ex-husband is Greek. And so it was Papa Economos, so priest of economy. Economou.
Because what you're doing is changing the economy of the world.
Yes.
I saw that, and I'm listening to your story going, what a perfect name for a beautiful woman. What a perfect name.
Thanks.
Let's jump in. Let's talk about first your kind of your message, the Illuminate message you told me about. Share that with our audience.
Yeah. So, Watts of Love brings solar lights and technology into the darkest, most remote places in the world. But one of the areas that I was going into pre-COVID in 2019, I was going to Malawi, which is the third poorest, third least electrified, and just really, I think in America, we know that Haiti is really one of the poorest places on the planet, but actually Malawi is in considerably worse shape than Haiti is, just to put it in perspective. But I was sharing kind of what we do and how we do it to a partner in Malawi. And he happened to be a Catholic priest. And he looked at me and he said, I really don't believe in what you do. And I'm like, kind of was stunned by him saying that. And he said, I have watched people come into Africa and ruin it. But if you want to come in and, give your lights and your education, okay. But he was a Spanish priest, but you could tell he was not really happy about me coming. So I said, well, I'll see you in September. Went there, and for an entire week, he sat back and kind of watched the Watts of Love program. And at the end of it, I'm like, so Father, what do you think? And he says, well, I'll tell you what I think. Number one, you illuminate their homes. Number two, you illuminate their minds with the financial literacy training. Number three, you illuminate their hearts. And it's the combination of those three that you are going to impact the nation. He said, you are welcome back anytime. So that's what we do.
Story. So with that, which is such a powerful message, what inspired you to start all this?
Yeah. So my background was in high-end jewelry sales. I sold Cartier here in Chicago and started having my children. I have 5 boys. So I say I have a starting lineup, but no spares. Actually recently got married. So I have 3 more sons. So I have I have 3 bonus sons. And when I was having my children, stay-at-home mom, it was just where I really felt called to be. And I had the opportunity with my ex-husband at the time to go to the Philippines. And I was really curious, like how people were living. We were wined and dined and it was luxurious and wonderful. But I wanted to see how everybody else in the Philippines was living. So I happened to go to a feeding program. And when I was at this feeding program, there was a little girl whose face was all burnt. Teachers are putting toothpaste on her face. I'm like, what are you doing? They said, oh, this happens all the time. Children are burnt because they don't have electricity. So their face gets burnt, their hands get burnt. We don't have burn medicine. And so I can tell you as a mother, right? And as an American, you think, oh, people don't have light. And you don't think beyond that. But I saw the beyond that. And I thought, how do you live and raise your children in the dark? I can tell you, I came home from that trip transformed. And I felt God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, like you're going to bring solar lights to people. Even though I had a house full of babies, 2009, there was not a lot of green, clean technology. I knew I was being called to do something. And it took me quite a few years to step out and do it, but I knew that I was supposed to make a change.
The calling comes hard. It's hard to say no. That tidal wave, right? It's like, and it does take a while. And that's a great lesson for your audience. Anything that you have an idea, don't expect overnight. Just know I love saying this phrase. The Navy SEALs say, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Go slow, it'll be smooth. And then years later, here we are doing some incredible things. What is Watts of Love to you? What are you doing to really impact?
Yeah. So that's a great question. And I think Watts of Love, a lot of people get focused on our solar light, right? Because I have 2 patents on the light. We were able to design and manufacture something very unique for our customers who are the ultra poor. But it's also something that's needed here in America and by many other people. But what makes us unique is our financial literacy training, which is kind of behind us, these pictures. Because when I first went and brought a light, I didn't know what I was doing. But I realized very quickly that it came with such an opportunity for the person who received this light. Because I wanted to know you're seen, you're loved, you're valuable. But all of a sudden they were able to start saving money. They were able to reinvest. And it was for people who had no formal education, or women who couldn't count, couldn't read, they had never even heard the word savings. So when I was realizing the opportunity that families had by this light, I thought, how do you teach people who can't count? They have no exposure. And I think I shared with you, I'm dyslexic, never did well in school. I think everybody can become an entrepreneur. So I would come back and I would start creating these banners which have pictures. You no longer are burning kerosene or you have new money. When I was creating the box, this is now the bank. So instead of going to buy batteries or kerosene, you're going to put your money inside of the bank every day. And then in 7 days, you're going to open up your box and you're going to go buy a chicken. And I know that seems very simple here, but there are people who that is the biggest, that is winning the lottery. And so every 7 days they can buy a chicken, and then you take 10 chickens and you buy a goat, and then you raise the goat and you buy a pig. And it is literally a pathway out of poverty. So what we do is we give them freedom to choose what they want to do, because light and an illumination in your home creates entrepreneurship. It increases education. And then we give them freedom to choose, what do you want to do to create more money? And that second income stream. So there's the savings income stream, and then there's the entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, that's, it's a simple model, but we have very specific way in order to implement this.
Yeah. It reminds me of the phrase, you could teach people how to fish, but you can't fish for them. Kind of what you're doing.
Yes.
And I love how you give them the autonomy to decide where they want to make the money, instead of saying, oh, you're all going to be cleaning
Farmers
clothes for,
Mhm.
passionate people are going to make better workers, and they're going to make more money. Just that's flat out known. God, that's so, audience, this is so cool.
And what happens with so many not-for-profits? They're like, okay, we'll start with the top students. We'll start with people who are already doing well. Well, no, like the smart will always be smart, right? Let's go down, like the people who have never had an education, let's make them successful, whether it's in a garbage dump or the side of a road. If we can make that family successful, then the children have a better education. They can make different decisions. They're seeing their mother become an entrepreneur. They're seeing their father work. We are ending generational poverty, but starting as low as we can find.
My head's spinning with so much great stuff. Audience, we're going to be partnering with me, and Nancy are going to be partnering for a long time doing some great things. But I talk about serving is here, serving the people who are really smart. They need to be taught and things like that. And that's great.
Yep.
You're serving. I love that you do that. But the person that really wants to excel and grow, you need to serve at the next level. And that's what you're doing. Hey, I can work with the people that are smart, they're educated, but I want to go down to the people that need more help, more time, and more effort. Yes. I love that's a true servant's heart. An audience is a great way for you to serve as well, because people ask me all the time, how do I serve? Also, a servant's heart's creative. And you told me a story with Catholic nuns, how you're helping to grow this powerful project. I mean, it's going to change countries, not just lives. Talk about that and how you came up with it and the creativity of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned a Catholic priest and a Catholic nun. We serve all. So let me make that very clear. And in fact, we work with, different NGOs, and I work with African parks. So I work with, all different partnerships. And what I started to realize is that because we're going and we're giving the light as a tool and the education to transform their minds, that came with a lot of power. Like, hey, I'm going to create the list for this community and you're not going to get one, or whatever. It just comes with a lot of power with who our partner was. And, I went back 1 year and my driver was now the mayor, like, because he came, his status was elevated. And we're seeing that all over. And so I really want to make sure that if we're investing in communities, that is actually serving the ultra poor and not my partner. And my partner will naturally rise up, right? So I started looking at all the different partners, and I kept meeting all these nuns. And I'm like, why do I keep meeting these nuns? This is so weird. In 10 years, like I'd never met nuns. And all of a sudden, a few years ago, I was meeting them. And I realized that they live in and amongst the ultra poor. They go to areas that most people don't want to live. Any faith, if they know they have a problem, they know that they can go to a Catholic nun. They love to educate, and they want people independent of them, right? Because then, if people can take care of themselves. So I have happened to meet the top nun for all of Malawi. I said, listen, sister, I've got a crazy idea. And I think that the nuns, because they are let's talk Malawi, because I want to prove this model in Malawi with the nuns, because it can then transfer into any other NGO or establishment, and we can start scaling and lighting nations. So I took the country, divided it into thirds, found 15 nuns they had to volunteer for whatever communities they were in throughout the entire country. And last March, we went and we trained 260 people, the Watts of Love way, right? And each nun she has parameters. You need to put together a group of 12, and it has to represent your community. So if you have people with disability, different abilities, they need to be part of it. People with albinism, different faiths. So they have the group of 12, and they are all trained the Watts of Love way for 3 days. You know, and it's unbelievable. It's we are on a mission to prove that we can light a nation, and the infrastructure for Malawi right now is the Catholic nuns for this scaling initiative. And I work with African parks, but they're not all over the country. I work with all different, but the scaling initiative is what we're going to prove the model and literally take it throughout the world.
In business, an audience, listen to this, the right partner can scale you, just what you're doing. That's why I wanted you to tell the story. I think it's incredible, by the way, but let's take that same story in any business. You could do the same thing with the right partner. Servant hearts, like you have and like I have, we have to have a purpose. You said in the beginning, what inspired you? When you're a nun and have to deal with negativity a lot of your life, you gave them purpose. I think they're probably fired up to be part of this, right?
So I said, what's amazing? A perfect partnership. So this is like with any business. For my business, what is the right partner? They need to have a heart like Mother Teresa, and they need to have a mind like General Patton, because it needs to be strategic. It needs to be organized. It needs to have a process, but they need to care at the end of it. And it's knowing who we are. So, right, I had to know, who are we? How do we want to represent ourselves? And how can I franchise that? So that's how we came up. And for the nuns, the feedback to us is, I'm getting out of the church. I'm going and sitting in the dirt with the people. I'm meeting people I've never met before. And it's giving them the teaching, and the light is almost the excuse to create relationship. And in order to have real significant change, it has to be one-on-one at scale.
Oh my God, Nancy, I could see a nun walking into a tribe, if that's what they call them, and say, guys, hey, I've got some light for you. The joy and the enthusiasm come out. You know, what? I can light, 8 hours or whatever that is.
Oh, they won the lottery.
Yeah.
They've never imagined their life that they would ever have a light. It's so just to give you vision, the nuns go into the communities before they even receive the lights, and there's a list made, because it's one light per home. So everything is very organized. The communities, and it's the entire community. So they have to seek out the elderly. They have to seek out the single mothers with 8 children. So with the nuns, the local authorities, maybe a healthcare worker, they create this list. And when the Watts of Love local team shows up, there is singing and dancing, because every person knows that they have been living in darkness since the beginning of time. Their day, their night will forever be changed.
You're building the perfect business model. Starts with purpose, then people, partners, and then systems, so that nuns don't get distracted. They know their marching orders. You use that General Patton thing, and it's perfect. That's good, Steve. Hey, host came up with a good one. They're in a good way, that they know exactly what they do. They come in, here's the systems we use. An audience, think about that. Purpose, people, systems. Anybody does that in their business, they're going to grow.
Yep.
You want to scale, there's all, we're not going to get into that because Nancy is so busy. She's got to go to Africa in a couple of weeks. I get her, she's got to get ready. I want to ask you a very simple question, but you're going to give me a big answer.
Okay.
What is servant leadership description for you?
Listening. Yeah.
Why?
Because so often we make decisions based on what we think they need. And people, in order to serve someone, it can be this simple. Hi, what's your name? Right? It doesn't have to be this. People just want to be known and for people to listen. And I think if you can be successful listening, and and especially in a busy world, I don't think many people feel heard. And I think, in America, we can see people are trying to get louder. And it's just the listening is probably key. And I don't always do it well, but I try.
It's going to be a weird comment. You'll understand in a minute, Nancy. I know some of the people in the audience listening that have talked to me. That's all I talk about. Ask, shut up, listen, and ask. You do that, your business will grow.
Yeah.
Your nonprofit will grow. Your purpose will grow. Thank you, because you're like my sister from another mother. I'm going to be very bold and say that because it's a simple step, a simple skill. It's not being done. Yeah. And if you didn't listen, you probably wouldn't be sitting here today, would you?
No. And I will tell you the reason that we're successful, like in the design, it was because I looked at their problems, and then came back, and it wasn't because I had all these great ideas. I just saw, listened, and then applied. It's this teaching that's behind me. Saw, listened, and applied. And then I'd go back and kind of massage it. Like, oh, they don't know what a light bulb is. They've never seen one. Like all of my images had to be for them. And so, I can take credit for moving it forward, but they were my teachers. Community.
Everybody needs, you have a massive one. And it's my head's spinning, and we're coming to the end here, but you're going to laugh at this one because I'm thinking if I come in and saw that and I have millions of dollars, I want to start building buildings. I want to give them lazy boy chairs and a bed to sleep in. And that might be overwhelming for them, right? Or it might be too much where a light is just simple.
I think of where we would be. Yeah. Like, it's light is safety, light is security. I mean, simple things like going to the bathroom at night. I know this is it's this simple. And, if somebody's starving, right? You find a starving person, you don't oh, here's a chocolate cake, here's a milkshake. Their body can't handle that. So what is the first step? And so many times we come in at this top step without recognizing where are they at. Oh, you've never heard of savings? Here's a box. Just you may not understand, can't count. Just put your battery money. You're already spending 10 cents a day. Just put it in here. And it's those teachings, those simple, meeting them exactly where they're at and not beyond, and empowering them.
The lessons we can learn from simplicity from the Africans and other poor countries.
Yep.
We're just not simple in that, our phones, how many people call me, my friend, hey, you do this on my phone or my computer because it's so complex. It's not simple. Push a button, everything happens.
Right.
You're an absolutely brilliant woman. This has been a great show. I want to say one of my better shows because the passion oozes out of you like if you were bleeding. And that's a weird analogy, but it just oozes out of you. But I want to learn a little bit more about you before we end. I've got a fun question for you.
Okay.
So I've got a reservation at a restaurant, table of 4.
Okay.
You'll sit in one of the chairs. You have 3 empty chairs. You get to invite anybody you want, dead or alive. And what food would you order?
Well, chocolate lava cake, because I'm like dessert first kind of gal. Like I'm like,
I
I
love it.
start off at the bottom of the menu. I'm like, okay, dessert. Like, is it good? If it is, then I'm going to decide how to order. If it's not, then I'm going to order more. So I'm a dessert first kind of gal. Who would I like to meet? Richard Branson. And I think I mentioned to you before, dyslexia. I think people who struggle with any type of disability or feeling less than. And I think that's what motivates me, because of the women that I meet and where they're at. They don't think it's possible. And I can tell you, I was a stay-at-home mom for 19 years. I had 5 kids. I left the workforce before there were even computers. And at 48 years old, I decided to reinvent myself. I look at Richard Branson and I feel like he has, from the beginning of his life, had challenges to overcome. And I believe that anything is possible. And I think he has, that spirit of anything is possible. And if you're lacking in that department, well, then find somebody who isn't. Like, that's, I can light the world or a nation, but don't ask me to do the books, right? So just know what you're good at. So Richard Branson, Joy, I can't remember her last name, right? You caught me off guard, who did the Mop Lady. Again, I love entrepreneurs. I love people, right? Elon Musk, I know it's controversial right now, but like, I love to talk to people who don't see, oh, well, that's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
We're able to do things differently. Yeah, obviously, a Mother Teresa, just, the passion there, and just her heart to serve is, yeah.
And somebody helps poor people more than anybody. She's probably a
Yeah,
leader.
I mean,
the go for that.
I
Greatest
know
of
I'm
all
gonna
time.
just say, I'm going to pull up 2 more seats, right? When I started Watts of Love, I had 2 role models. Blake Mycoskie from Tom's, the buy one, give one. I'm like, amazing. Business, strategy, giving, loved it. And then Scott Harrison. I love looking at life and non-for-profit. It is a business. And we've looked at it like we have to take care of our people and grow. But I just love his model where he got funding for his people. And then the 100% or the give back to the program. So those would be the 2 that I'd pull up to.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love what a great table. Nothing wrong with dessert.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong. Incredible show. Audience, listen to this over and over again. I'm going to give you some clues after, but I know people listening are going, I want to learn more about Watts of Love. I want to reach out to Nancy. How can they connect with you?
Yeah, so www.wattsoflove.org, Watts, WATTS, Watts of Love. So check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're on all of the social media, and also Nancy Economou, ECONOMOU on LinkedIn.
It's beautiful. And audience, subscribe to the YouTube channel, but it's different than what you think. I love my subscribers. I love people getting to see and hear guests like this. But my philosophy with the podcast, and I know Nancy's going to love this, is they're gifts. Let me tell you a real quick journey. You're listening to this podcast going, oh my God, Nancy, her vision's amazing. She got to meet, I got to introduce her to my cousin, in a sense, the show, because she's doing something or she's struggling or she's poor, whatever it may be. You share that link. That's the gift, because if their cousin looks at it and watches it for even 10 minutes and it changes their life, did you make an impact? Maybe they reach out to Nancy and she gives them a tip. Did you make an impact? Maybe they work with Nancy. Did you make an impact? Said it 4 times. Nancy's making a massive impact. You out there, don't need to do that. You can, like she said earlier, it could be a simple thing like you have a beautiful smile, or your background on your Zoom is it's awesome. It's really caught my eye. People want to be seen, and using these podcast links, you can have people be seen through other people's eyes. I've just made that up, and I think that's wonderful. I talk about myself all the time. It's weird, Nancy, but you got me all fired up. With that being said, me and Nancy want to thank all of you for watching and listening to this podcast. We'll see you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.